Winning is a part of our culture. The desire to be the best, the desire to pursue excellence is a part of UVA.
Virginia has done it! The Cavaliers are national champions!
They're going to say no! They're going to say no! Virginia won the football game! Virginia! I don't believe it!
Whatever comes down the road, whatever the future holds, we need to make sure that the University of Virginia has options.
It's another episode of Inside Virginia Athletics with Carla Williams. I'm your host, John Freeman, and Virginia football is now just days away, which means today we're talking all the nuts and bolts of the fan experience and how it comes together on game days. But before we do that, let's welcome in the athletic director of the University of Virginia, back on the sidelines, president's box, suite, locker room, wherever she needs to be on game day for now her 9th season of Virginia football. Carla, how are we feeling as we get ready for a new year of Cavalier football?
Feeling awesome. Ready to go.
Yeah, and we got a guy that helps get everybody ready to go on game day. So let's talk game day. If you look towards the press box in Scott Stadium, we'll see a bunch of people with headsets on. So you got the offensive and defensive coordinators. You got the TV and radio crew with headsets on. And then you also see this guy with a headset on because he's directing the game day experience. He is the man who flicks the lights on and off when we score touchdowns at night games. So let's welcome in Assistant Athletics Director for Strategic Marketing and Fan Engagement. That is Eric Ward. And I feel like we need the smoke machine when we bring this guy to come on to the
save the
podcast.
budget for the season, man.
Well,
for the real show, you know?
We need Thunderstruck when he comes out. So Eric, how are we doing today?
Good. Fired up for the season. Can't wait to kick the ball off.
Now, you're responsible for what tens of thousands of Virginia fans experience on game day for football and all of our sports. You oversee all of them. Everything you do is behind the scenes. So give us an introduction to Eric Ward. Like, where are you from? Where were you before this? And how'd you get interested in this line of work?
Yeah, you know, I've been in Virginia for about 3 years now. I came here right before the 2022 season was when I started. I had a dozen years or so experience at 3 other institutions, 3 other conferences. I'm a University of South Carolina graduate. Spent most of my undergrad in the marketing department there. And then 1 year post-grad, what I would consider kind of the golden age of Gamecock athletics. We won 2 baseball national championships, back-to-back, 11-win seasons in football. Very cool being on the ground floor of that operation at a school that traditionally had not had that kind of success. My bread and butter was baseball. I actually got recruited to go to Texas Tech. We played Oklahoma in a super regional in 2012, and the associate head coach became the head coach at Texas Tech, and he just said, hey, I want that in Lubbock. And they were trying to pour resources into baseball because they had had no success in 10 years or so. So I ended up in Lubbock, Texas. Never would have imagined myself out there, but it was a fantastic time. They threw me the men's basketball gig there because nobody cared about basketball at Texas Tech at the time. And they said, hey, let's give it to this 23-year-old guy and see what happens. And it's amazing because we went from a Midnight Madness event with 100 people at it to playing for a national championship in 5.5 years. It was incredible. But prior to Virginia, I spent 5.5 years at East Carolina, primarily with the football and baseball programs, and a lot of keys there. I had the fan experience side of it, but I also did licensing, social media, creative services was like kind of all under my tool belt. But what I haven't said is I'm a lifelong Virginia fan. I'm a Danville native, very passionate about the Wahoos, and I've been through the good and bad, both here at games and from afar in my professional career. And 3 years in now, it's kind of fun seeing the trajectory we're on.
And you're in charge of the fan experience. You've experienced Virginia as a fan before, which I think is so important growing up. And Carla, when we talk about fan experience, what is the importance of it in everything that we do here in the athletic department, from recruiting to obviously revenue, marketing, everything that it touches in athletics?
Yeah, it's important, which is why we have Eric here. It's important for football. It's important for basketball, and it's important when you're not doing as well. But it's also important when you're doing really well. And so, having the fans there, having a great environment for the student athletes, for prospects, like that's really huge too. When it's a great atmosphere at Scott Stadium and we've got prospective student athletes there and high school coaches, that's a huge help. It's a huge help. And then the student athletes themselves, love seeing fans in the stadium, love seeing students, on the hill. So it's huge. It's a big part of the entire atmosphere and pageantry of college athletics.
So let's talk football. Eric, you've been at UVA for how long?
This would be my 4th season.
Okay, so what's the biggest change that you've made in the game day experience since you've gotten here?
Yeah, so I actually, as I mentioned, I started right before the 2022 season, and when I got hired, I think what I was told was, it was right before the season, we were basically executing a different plan. It's take this year to evaluate, see what's working, what's not working. My expertise is more in the space of solutions and trying to help out roadblocks, and it was obviously I'm familiar with the UVA environment, but it was fascinating to me to see some of the areas that maybe were easy solutions, some that maybe were more long-term. I'm really proud that there's a lot of things we've taken little strides in, but there's also some things that have been really, really big. And, one particular for me, I was floored when I got here that we're asking fans to park at, JPJ and Fontaine, and we had no shuttle system in place for that. And understandably, it's a big budget line item, but that's an area that we had a donor. We were able to ask to step up and provide that service, and now that's gotten better and better each year. But I mean, you go through all sorts of things with the concessions experience, the investment that Carla has made in concessions, and with Airmark S&E, the video board, the sound system, all these things make it a much better game day experience. But it's a lot of the little things too that fans have gripes on game day that we've been able to address, and I think every year's gotten a little bit better, and hopefully this is the year where it all comes together.
Let's talk about feedback. So you probably hear from fans plenty. Carla's smiling, Eric's smiling as well. Where do you get feedback from? How often does it come? And what do you do with it in terms of the fan experience? Carla, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, so constructive criticism is really important because, my approach, our approach is that we really are here to serve. And we want to make sure that our stakeholders have a great experience. And so, Eric and Tyler and our entire staff do a really good job of receiving that feedback and then trying to implement change where we can and where it's necessary. And that's not everything, but it is a lot of what we hear from our supporters.
And we do the surveys after every game, and I can speak for myself. I read those front to back 3 times after every game. I deploy the information that comes from that to the correct people. A lot of them are common themes, things that aren't maybe not surprises, but areas that we understand. A lot of it does come down to investment and investments we've made. For example, a couple years ago, it was the sound system is just really poor quality. Well, we have a new sound system now. So it's not always that we don't know these things, but there's definitely investments that come along with it. But there are definitely very specific examples, and we try to address those in one-offs. It could be the smallest problem on game day, but if it's something that people feel is a reason they don't want to come to games, we want to remove that obstacle. And then the other side is just engaging people. I probably send over 100 emails on Sundays and Mondays every game week from people that just reach out directly on specific things, and just trying to make sure that we are responding in the quickest time possible to people and the issues that they're having on game days.
It's interesting. We're sitting here in the NFL room, and you can see behind us players who have played at Scott Stadium, and these are some old photos. It's an older stadium. We're playing in it, obviously, for over 90 years, and the fan experience demands change, too. So take us back maybe 15 years ago when it comes to college athletics. What do fans experience or need in their experience now that say they didn't when this place was last sold out 16 years ago against USC?
I think the thing that has probably changed the most is the quick progression with television and how great of an experience the TV viewing experience is, right? I mean, going from HD TV to, just the resources that are poured into the TV product. It is a direct competitor in a way. It's obviously a revenue stream with the athletic department, every athletic department, but it's something that maybe it's a little bit easier to take games off, and that just makes it that much harder because we have to replicate everything you get on TV broadcast in stadium to the best we can. To me, there's nothing like going to a game day, and so we try to pour all of our resources into making that experience the best it can be, because ultimately, if people fill our stadium, everybody wins, and that's an area that we try to address.
So feedback is a huge part of your job, receiving it and then also doing something with it. And this year we have a fan council. So you get feedback from all sources, but you also have a very targeted group that is the UVA faithful, the fan council that has been guiding a lot of the fan experience. So take us through the fan council. What is it? How was it started? Who's in it? And how's it going?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I do love the feedback, good, bad, and ugly. We can't get better if we don't know, and it's been really great to kind of hear from this group of fans, very particularly. So we've been kicking around the idea of the fan council for the last couple of years. Last summer, so over a year ago, we decided, okay, we are definitely going to do our fan council after this upcoming season, regardless of the results of the season. And it takes a lot of time and effort to organize something like that. It's been almost Herculean at times to kind of figure out what is the model, how do we bring all these people together, what's the format of the event, of the meetings, and how do we select the correct group of fans that's going to give us the accurate feedback for what the game experience is. And so when we went to the community in February, who was going to join this, we had hundreds of submissions. It was great. And honestly, I was really impressed because most of them were very positive and forward-thinking. Like, there were definitely people in there that had negative feedback, but most people, it was in the sense of they wanted to be productive and they wanted to be helpful. And so we focused on selecting a group that had the widest variety of feedback, right? So every area of the game experience, we had people who had, good, bad, and ugly feedback on. And I think that helped us really get a group that's overall commensurate with the fan base. So we have people in their 20s all the way up through their 70s. We have people here in Charlottesville, Richmond, Tidewater, Nova, Southside, Roanoke. We have a couple out-of-staters. So it's helpful to get this feedback. Current season ticket members, former season ticket members, people who've never had season tickets, people planning to come to every game this year, people planning to come to one game this year. And so it's been rewarding to kind of hear exactly what their experience has been. There's been a few surprises along the way. I think some of the things that they circled have been things that we're aware of, but it's been tremendous in helping us understand the exact priorities. And there's been select examples that we could go to them and they give us back really, really good feedback. And so a great example of that would be our ticketing, right? So we have a big dynamic difference between the lower bowl experience and upper deck experience. So one of the sessions we had, we talked about, are you as a season ticket member who's paying your VAF donation, these season tickets, are you concerned if we were to discount tickets for some of these sections in the stadium? And they were like, we just want more people at the games. So that was really informative. Something we'd been kicking around is completely redoing the affordability options within Scott Stadium, and I think that was critical in us is really understanding exactly what the dynamic was there.
Tell us more about the affordability.
Yeah, so we had, first of all, a family 4-pack that we brought online this year. It's 4 season tickets for $520, all fees included. So that's, once you get to that, that's exactly what it is, no surprises. Those have been selling extremely well. People are really buying in the season ticket model. I think that's been awesome. We took it a step further with the mini plan. Previously, those have always been you basically get assigned the games, or maybe there's pockets of games. This year, we took the first 6 home games and said, pick any 3, whatever works your schedule, what you want. It's $99 for 3 games. And then we also created fan first games. So the first 3 games of the season are very low barrier of entry, $16.50 tickets for the first 2 games. And we also have a 4-pack for that game for $54 for the Coastal Carolina and William & Mary games. And then for the Stanford game, we also have a family 4-pack that's $108 for the ACC opener. So tickets have been selling really, really well for all games. Our season ticket number is up a lot. We have over 2,500 new season ticket holders coming on board this year, which is really, really good. And we're talking, top 2 or 3 over the last 20 years in ticket gain. So that's encouraging to see the results of that paying off. And, we're expecting a really, really good crowd for the Coastal Carolina game that continues to swell. And then hopefully we kick off with a really good atmosphere, and that's game 1 of 7. That's a really good crowd.
Carla, we travel all over the place with football. We see how everybody does it. We've been to a place as small as Coastal Carolina. We've been to Notre Dame, all in the same season last year. Where does our fan experience compare to other schools, and what do you think we can do better and improve on?
Yeah. I'll say that I've been fortunate that I've also traveled all over the SEC for game day and fan experience in that conference too, which is pretty significant. And, I think that our goal is to ensure that fans come back, right? So they have to have a good experience. And it's not lost on us that that the product on the field has to be, really compelling. And so we've worked really hard in that area too, and I'm excited about the fall in that regard. I think it's going to be some really exciting football on the field to draw people to the stadium. And then once they're there, we've got to make sure that they have a really good experience. And the ACC as a conference, I think, is growing in that area. And I was also at FSU when we won a national championship, and you can't. It's difficult to put into words what that type of environment and success means to a community, not just a university community, but the entire community. So we are striving for that type of atmosphere, those type of results, of course. But it takes a lot. It takes a lot of investment. And so I think sometimes it's easy to say, we'll just spend the money to do it. But we're also in this era spending money on other things as well. And so the sound system, the scoreboard, all of that took years of planning and budgeting so that we have the opportunity to add those elements to the game day experience. We know we needed to do it. Like we knew it. You just got to have the resources to do it. And so it takes planning and budgeting to kind of sequence those things out. And I think, something that a lot of our fans don't realize is that we also had to catch up on a lot of maintenance, like infrastructure maintenance at the stadium that cost millions of dollars. So we had to catch up on that first to make sure we were in a safe environment, and then started to add the elements to improve the experience there.
Things that aren't fancy, like sealing the cement.
Structure, cement, water damage, all kinds of things like that are critically important and necessary, had to be taken care of first.
So you talk about the cost of providing a fan experience, and we'll get to what that looks like on a game-by-game basis with Eric in a moment. But Carla, new era of college sports. We all know, you're now required to share over $20 million of your revenue with student athletes. Will that have an impact on what you can provide for fans going forward? Because that has a major impact on your budget.
Right, and we have to plan, and we have to have the right strategy, and I think that the fans will be pleased if we can have success on the field. That's important to all of us. It's important to Coach Elliott. It's important to the players. So the investment, there are investments at every level. There's an investment in the staff. There's an investment in the roster. Right, so that is a clear priority, is a financial investment in the roster, given rev share and NIL. Our hope is that on the field product will be a direct contributor to the fan experience that only enhances what you and your staff are trying to do. So that's the plan. It all works together, and I don't think, at this point over the next year or two, because this rev share, this new era is evolving. So over the next year or two, our donors have done such a wonderful job of supporting us that we feel really good about the next couple of years in that regard. But in order to maintain a level of success, then we're going to have to start looking at, what are the other ways to drive revenue. So maybe it's more premium seating in the stadium. There are a number of ways. It's a long list of ways to drive revenue at the stadium. And so I'm sure at some point we'll get to that.
And Eric, you're budgeting on a game-by-game basis. about the fan experience. So we were just having a chat before this, and we're like, well, touchdowns cost money because we have to set off fireworks, and fireworks are expensive.
Yeah.
So, like, how much does this stuff come down to judging expense versus reward in the fan experience? I know you'd love to do a million ideas,
Right, yeah.
but how much are you having to trim because of the cost?
Well, first off, say that it gets better and better every year. There's definitely more investment in these things, but the experience that we have going to the grocery store with inflation and the rise of costs, it's the same thing we're dealing with all of our vendors, and so things cost a little bit more every year. And I'll use fireworks for example. Just in the 3 years I've been here, the cost of that has gone up 60%. When you factor in insurance and the premiums associated with that. The actual cost of product, the safety, the permitting. There's a lot of things that go into even one little vertical of game day that changes. And I'll give a shout out to Slammer and his team. You look at the video board, that's great when you see the finished product, but it takes dozens of people to put that together. So you multiply that times every facet of the game experience, whether it be the marching band and their operation, the spirit groups and their operation, the different groups we have coming into game day to support things like maybe it's a flyover, maybe it's a parachute team. All of these things cost a lot of money, and so it's just weighing, where do you go big and invest in certain games? What's the baseline support you have for the whole season? And fortunately, we don't have to make too many tough decisions on that front, but it is something that's always in the back of your mind.
That's my favorite part about Eric's job is I walk by and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm clearing airspace for the flyover. Like everything has to go down to minute detail when it comes to a game day experience, like a flyover.
Yeah, and it's all precise. I mean, it's funny because it's a science in the sense that there's a game clock, right, and you're trying to fill a certain amount of inventory in a game, but it's an art in how you do it. And it'd be great if we could predict exactly when touchdowns happen and when players get injured and when we go to review, but we can't. And we spend hours and hours and hours crafting a script that's pages and pages long, but then you get into the game and it's what's going to happen. And so we try to control as much as we can, but a lot of it is reacting in real time and executing a script that changes every minute of every game.
What's your relationship with Coach Elliott? I've been in his office when you walked by and he was like, there's my guy. So what do you guys talk about in building the game day experience, and how much does he have an input into it?
Well, first we talk about our favorite food locales in the state of South Carolina, as, both being from there or familiar with there. Coach Elliott is great to work with. And it's been my experience, honestly, a lot of football coaches are great. They have so much on their plate to worry about that the game experience stuff is critically important to them. But there's a lot of faith and trust that goes into it. And when I first met with Coach, my first week on the job, he said, I just want a recruitable atmosphere. And he understood that there were pieces of it that were very recruitable, and there were pieces that we probably had a long way to go on. And so a lot of the feedback that he's given has been great. I mean, it's been instrumental in what we apply to game days. Things like music for pregame for the players, or giving them opportunities to select either visuals on the board or music for them that they want to see. At the end of the day, we're here to serve our student athletes, and giving them a quality experience is of utmost importance. But Coach Elliott is tremendous at understanding the balance between his team, his program, his players, and fans. And not all coaches are great at that. And so most of our conversations are, how do we capitalize on this moment? What do we have big upcoming? How do we get our recruiting staff in position to enjoy this at the best level? Because they do want to sell what we have to offer. And then there's a lot of things that have gone right. And I'll give an example last year with the redo of the pregame show. That was extremely well received by recruits. And that's an example of, a vision from all of us collectively being applied that ended up working out.
All right, so let's talk about this year. What new things can we expect in the game day experience in Scott Stadium? We got a Chick-fil-A, right? That's
There's
confirmed.
a Chick-fil-A truck, yes.
Chick-fil-A truck is coming.
So a few things. I think the biggest thing would be we focused a lot of effort onto the atmosphere outside of the stadium, and that's an area that has grown a little bit in the last couple of years, is going to continue to grow. So last year we moved our Fan Fest outdoors to O Hill for the first time. This year we're actually going to be selling tailgates on the O Hill field and other grassy spaces adjacent to Scott Stadium. Candidly, the tailgating experience directly beside Scott is amazing. There's just not a lot of inventory. And so we work with a company called Revel XP. They've been with us for the last year and a half on the ticket side and helping us with sales there. But this outlet of it is going to be great for the fans and tailgating, and I'm sure it's going to be something that's going to continue to grow as time passes, but they work with 40 to 50 schools around the country. This is their expertise. And the fans who have taken part of that and bought those experiences are very happy that this is an option, and we're just going to continue to grow that.
And maybe some special surprises for games down the road?
Yeah, I think we have a couple things cooking that I think will be good. We're going to put a lot of emphasis for certain on the Florida State game, knowing that that's a night game on ESPN. So that'll be a big one for us. But some of the other areas, maybe not necessarily my purview, but other folks in the athletic department have put a lot of effort into concessions. There's lots of new points of sale to help the efficiency of that. A replacement of a lot of food vendors and the quality of ingredients. Hopefully will improve with that. I think that's an area that they've really focused on this year. One thing I'm really excited about is we're working directly through University Parking and Transit for the buses this year. And so with that, we actually have ADA capabilities at all parking lots. So if you're parking at Fontaine, JPJ, Darden, and you're ADA, you can just use the buses there. And we got it routed now to drop directly off of the gates at Scott Stadium. So, if you're not able to park adjacent to the stadium, I think that's a big win for us because it's a much smoother experience. And then we're going to continue to invest in the O'Hill Field because that's a really big deal for us.
And Carla, Eric has such a responsibility of entertaining fans when they're in the stadium and also getting them into the stadium in terms of buying tickets. So how important is all the things Eric just talked about, ticketing, parking, everything associated with game day for the financial stability of our athletic department?
Yeah, it's critical. It's a huge part of our entire department, and I think across the country, it's the reason why the landscape has changed so much in the last year, 18 months with the rev share, is that across the country, most athletic departments, have one or two sports that operate in the black, and then all of the other sports operate in the red. And so the department has to be able to sustain, whether it's 16 sports or 20 sports, or for us, 27 sports, based on the revenue generated by football. And across the country, football is the one sport that generates enough revenue to try to supplement and support the rest of an athletic department. Men's basketball across the country does help supplement the budget, but is kind of self-sustaining. They balance on a regular basis, balance their budget. And so the revenue generated by football is huge because it allows us to sustain our other sports. So those coaches, those scholarships, their operating budgets, their travel, all of those things that allow us to compete at a very high level in our Olympic sports are directly tied to the revenue that comes from football. And it's kind of set because right now it doesn't fluctuate so much based on wins and losses. So it's important to invest in football, to make sure the game day experience is one that's favorable, to invest in the roster, invest in the program to ensure that you can win games, because that revenue is what sustains an entire department, not just at Virginia, but across the country. The revenue from football sustains a department.
Carla, you mentioned Olympic sports, and one thing that is new this year is several Olympic sports do not have ticketing. So men's soccer, women's soccer, volleyball, field hockey, all this fall, you can just walk right into their games without buying a ticket. So that's a huge gift to the community. I know that was a major decision to make during the off season. So take us through what went behind that decision and why it was made.
Well, the one thing is we have so many great teams, and it's great that beyond the 4 sports that are no longer ticketed, we have championship winning programs left and right in this university, and it's really, really fun to experience that. So now men's and women's soccer, softball, women's lacrosse are going to also be complimentary admission. We think it's going to have a tremendous increase to the game environment to boost the attendance, and ultimately it keeps it in line with many other sports here at the university in the free admission. I think the community is going to respond really, really well with these, and we're going to see some great crowds throughout the year at these sports.
Yeah, and I'll just add there are no barriers to being able to bring your family to a sporting event at UVA. Like we're a big part of the community, and sports is a big part of life in general. And so wherever we can be a part of bringing community together through sports, we want to be able to do that, and this allows that to happen. So you could bring an entire family to whether it's soccer or lacrosse and enjoy it because we owe that to the community because the community has been such great partners to us, and there are some future prospects in those groups too. So we'll see some benefits from it too. But we were just very fortunate and excited that we can offer it.
Yeah, well, we are well underway in fall sports season. Eric, I hope you spent a lot of money on fireworks this year. Means we're having a good
Hope we
year.
run out of fireworks.
Carla, we'll see you on the sidelines, and wherever
Yes.
you are on game days, you're all over the building. I know.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, that's Eric Ward, Carla Williams. I'm John Freeman. Another episode of Inside Virginia Athletics with Carla Williams.